The world exists tomorrow. Now you know why. Jericho.
The breach opens onto the remains of a river of blood, guts, and human limbs. Above them, on a huge bridge, a gigantic Crusader armory advances towards the fortress of Les Innocents.
Cole, can you give me a reading on the date? How far back have we gone?
We're not gonna find out standing around here.
According to planetary alignment, the year is 1213 AD, sir. Which way?
Jones, you got any hunches we can follow?
The riverbed feels right.
Thanks to the planetary alignment, or whatever, we know that the period of time trapped in this part of the box is centuries behind the last one. And it is indeed a river of blood. We come across the flying cultists we fought before as Ross. These guys can be a pain since they like to move around a lot, do a good amount of damage to your entire squad, and have way more health than you'd think. Honestly, the best way to take them out, I find, is with Delgado and Ababanilli, not taking pot shots with Rawlings like I'm doing here. Black's Ghost Bullet works well here too. After taking them out, we learn about Rawlings' other ability, Exorcism. By holding Q, we can drain our enemy of their health, healing those around us. I've never really found much use for this, but maybe in this playthrough we can test it out some more. Unfortunately, we can't use it much right away since the next enemies we meet are explosive cultists, which, yeah, aren't the best targets for this ability. It gets rid of the need to aim at their weak spots, but we have to get pretty close, which means we'll probably end up hurting our squad more than healing them. Now, as you can probably tell, this game is pretty much a corridor shooter. Again, 2007 game, it's what they made back then. Most encounters test your ability to survive against waves of respawning enemies, like here there's about 5 or 6 waves of exploding cultists. In most shooters, I'd say this is a flaw, and to you it might still be a flaw here, but I think it works for Jericho. The squad mechanics and the multiple abilities you have access to make optimizing your gameplay more interesting than just shoot better. We move through the River of Blood, fighting more exploding and flying cultists. Some of the flying cultists have shields that make them even more annoying since they block your bullets and they always use them to protect one side of their heads. This makes Ababanilli and Ghost Bullet even more of a good choice for taking them out. We travel further down the river, where we run into an invisible wall, and get frustrated, and walk around, wondering where we go, but oh yeah, that thing's an enemy! I believe these are called behemoths, and they're more obstacles than enemies. They can't move from the spots they spawn in, and their only attack is a spray of blood from their big mouths? I guess it's a mouth? It doesn't do much damage, and every time we encounter them, there's cover that our squad uses to be basically invincible to its damage. Now our squad also won't be hurting them, because the only way to kill them is by shooting all the runes surrounding its face? I don't know, it looks like a butthole to me. We're getting sprayed with blood doo-doo, it's canon, deal with it. Our squad does not know this to be the case, however, and will just sit there, popping out of cover every once in a while to not do any damage. By far the best way to take these out is with Abby. She can destroy a rune with 2 shots from her sniper rifle, or 1 from her grenade launcher or ghost bullet. The ghost bullet is also useful if you're having trouble hitting a rune because the behemoth is flying around. The behemoth sinks into the River of Blood, allowing us to cross over. Why we don't sink, I don't know. Maybe the behemoth dissolved? I mean, we're walking on ground in some parts. How was it even sitting there? You know, we don't have time to think about this since we run into another behemoth after a short distance. Make that 2. 2 behemoths. This fight is a little trickier than the first since you have to be mindful of 2 spurts of red ass water when you take your shots. Still, Abby's ghost bullet can take care of 1, and then the other goes down just like the first. You'll notice here that I'm not really zooming in with Black's sniper rifle, and that's because you really don't have to a lot of the time. It's useful for headshots on the smaller enemies, but you really don't lose accuracy for no-scoping it. We don't do many 360s, though. With those 2 down, we continue on to find another. Yeah, the behemoths are a nice set piece, but don't make for terribly interesting encounters. This one is special though, since it can apparently only be taken down via QuickTime events. That's kind of Billy's other superpower. She does a lot of quick time events. Pretty much any time we're forced to take control of her, expect some kind of quick time event. We continue on getting out of the river. We see the child again, who doesn't have anything to say. It's just here to help us with the puzzle. Thanks, child. We use Jones to clairvoyance ourselves to a lever and pull it to lower a bridge. Our path is still barred by a gate, however, and this gate can only be opened by Delgado, cause he's so strong.
Omega Team, suppressing fire. Alpha Team, across the bridge now.
You cannot help them. They belong to the children now. The damned ones can smell your souls. It calls to them like fresh carrion to a jackal. We must get you inside.
Separated from their friends, Delgado, Black, and Church can only continue on through the dark, twisting passages infested with unknown danger. In the distance, they hear the faint cries of small children.
This way. Stay close, brothers.
What about our men? We're not leaving without them.
You cannot help them now. Please, this way. All will be explained soon.
It's a trap!
Your friends are the least of your worries. I have delivered the heathens as you requested, Your Grace.
Your dedication and sacrifice to our Lord will be greatly rewarded. You and your men have earned your place in the kingdom of heaven 1,000 times over.
Don't be a jackass. He's lying. He's trying to set the firstborn free.
Silence, witch! You dare address the Seraphim Gabriel?
Rise, my son. There is still much work to do for our Lord.
Of course, Your Grace. It will be my honor. What will you have us do with the heretics?
Leech, I want you to know, when I get out of here, I'm gonna eat your soul.
Let them entertain the children.
There has to be another way out of here.
This just keeps getting more and more fucked up. Billy, we need your silent efficiency to clear the way.
Let me scout ahead. They won't even know I'm there.
What follows is probably the first fairly difficult stretch of the game, mostly because of our...
Shut the fuck up.
Hey, I'm the one doing the video here, okay? You're lucky this isn't another Mario com joke. Anyway, it's only game over if all our characters die, and with only 3, one bad exploding cultist can be real bad news. There is kind of a stealth option here. We can sneak up with Billy and get one-shot kills with our sword on unsuspecting enemies. If we mess up, though, it'll spawn other enemies and start a normal encounter. This is not a stealth game. We're mostly just trying our best and hoping the game registers a stealth kill, which sometimes it does, and others, well...
This one's mine. There's one.
I suppose the explodey boy isn't a good stealth target anyway. This underground section goes on for a while, and we mostly stick to Billy and Delgado. Black is useful for taking out explosive cultists, but the reload on her grenade launcher means eventually one will close the distance in such close quarters. She's mostly just used for quote-unquote puzzles where we have to use her telekinesis to move things in our way. And this one where we have to go around and shoot something in our way. Again, Billy can struggle on hard mode with the normal cultists because of their higher damage and her low health, but in the small corridors like this, her blood ward can make some fights trivial. Eventually, the team hears crying coming from behind another wall that Abby can blow down.
Stay back. Abby, bind him. You were one of the Knights Templar, right?
No knights left here. Just blind fools and heretics.
Come on, we're wasting time. We need to find a way out.
There is no way out. We are in a prison inside a prison inside a prison.
Tell me
inside a
everything.
prison.
Start from the beginning.
In the year of our Lord 1213, a young bishop, Malthius Sinclair, convinced Pope Innocent III that he had discovered the site for the Garden of Eden, and that it was in the hands of infidels. He volunteered to lead a crusade to take it back.
And your men were sent to help him capture Alkali?
On the contrary, we were sent to stop him. When word of Malthius's plot reached the Templar Knights, we left for Alkali at once. But by the time we arrived, the children, they were already dead.
What children?
Malthius had convinced the Pope that Christian children could not be harmed by heathen spear tip or arrow, and so a child army arrived 3 days before us and marched against the Saracens. The blood from their slaughter opened the breach. I'm sure you can guess the rest of this tale. We've been here ever since. I wasn't the first to lose my mind, nor the last.
What about the bishop?
Oh, he's down there still, in the crypt with the children he sent to die. That place belongs to them now. If that's where your friends are, you best say a prayer and leave it at that.
Fuck that. Time to go.
You're coming with us.
With you. Even if they'd allow it, where should I go? There's nothing outside these walls, or the countless walls beyond. If you do find your way to the next breach, be sure to send my regards to the Centurion. I'm sure he's still hanging about somewhere.
After centuries of fighting without rest, insanity has seized the last Templars. Leech's treachery has forced what remains of Jericho to the confines of the infected sewers of Les Innocents.
Do you hear something?
Footsteps.
No, not just footsteps. It's marching.
I think we're about to get some company.
Everyone, take cover.
What cover? We're exposed down here.
So yeah, if things weren't already dark before, we now apparently have undead child soldiers to worry about. By the way, as far as I know, there was no child army in the Crusades. Malthius isn't a real person, and Pope Innocent III, well, he was a real crusade-happy guy, but as far as I can tell, he kept to good old-fashioned religious murder. Anyway, here we start fighting some new enemies, the Crusaders. They come in two variants, the first being these assholes that fire exploding crossbow bolts, and the other being a quick melee fighter with a shield. Abby is great for taking out the crossbow wielders since they like to hide and cover, but either Billy or Delgado are best for the shield guys. Billy can get around their shield with her sword, and they don't have nearly as much health as the cultists. Delgado is still probably the best choice, however, since they can only block 2 or 3 shots from his minigun before their guard breaks, and he's more survivable. Eventually the party gets stuck, and Billy has to go off on her own through a tunnel to find a way out. Also, if we die here, we go all the way the fuck back like 3 firefights ago and have to go all the way. Eventually, Billy finds a hole that contains a quick time event. fair, that one is actually kind of tense with the Crusaders slowly following us down the well. I mean, we're in a sewer, so it's probably not a well. Shit's been through there. We can now use Billy's other ability, Fire Ward. Much like Blood Ward, this drains a bit of her health, but sets every enemy around it on fire. We have to use the Fire Ward to start this fight, so it's easy to die here since we are already low on health. Thankfully, we just go back to after the quick time event. We pull a lever and let the rest of our squad through.
Miss me?
Since trapping themselves inside the box, the Crusaders have continually waged war. These religious zealots have discovered that since they cannot die, they can pay homage to their god by inflicting torture and mutilation on themselves. They take great pleasure in mailing armor straight into their flesh and replacing limbs with devastating weaponry. The next area is much more open than the sewers, making Abby a much better choice. You'll also notice that her telekinesis now sets enemies on fire, whereas before it just stunned them. Flying cultists now join the fray again and are much tougher without a whole squad to fire on them. Billy is basically useless against them unless you time a Blood Ward really well when they come in close, so Ghost Bullet and a Babanilli are the best choices here, or a minigun. Billy is much more useful against the Crusaders as her Fire Ward eats up the melee cultists without you having to do much, and the crossboys don't have much, if any, melee capabilities. Also, Abby pushes walls. Again, that's who she is, the wall pusher. Pushing walls. The last fight here is in a big open area with a lot of flying cultists. Delgado is really helpful here as his fire spirit one-shots the annoying suckers and doesn't care that they're in the air. Convinced that their innocence would protect them, Malthius and his army of children marched into the Holy Land to save the unfaithful. Malthius's entire child army was destroyed, and now he resides in the chapel in constant purgatory for his sins. Oh, hey guys. What's going on? So, more sewers. There's nothing really new here, except we sometimes face cultists, sometimes face Templars. It can actually be kind of easy to get turned around in here, even though there's basically only one way to go, or at least it's easy for me to get turned around. It's all dirty walls and sewer water and blood and, well, eventually we get out of there and into a temple area.
Look at the coffins. They're small.
Yeah, but are they occupied? That's what I want to know.
Why don't you check?
Are you on crack, bruja?
Shh.
Venga, let's keep moving.
Immediately we meet a new set of enemies, which are, yeah, it's child ghosts. Well, just the top half of child ghosts. I mean, I do have a warning at the beginning for a reason, I guess. These guys can be kind of annoying because they're not always vulnerable. While they're in their transparent spirit forms, they just float around, letting you know that you have to wait to hit them. We can shoot them when they go all spooky zombie, though, and they don't have much health. They're weak to fire, so Delgado and Billy's Fire Ward are especially useful. They can dish out a good amount of damage, though, and since there are usually several of them, it can be hard to know when one's behind you. After a few fights with the children, Jericho eventually finds a way out of these particular ruins. Protected by a black rose, Malthius continues to endure the wrath of the slaughtered children. A hope remains that somewhere, someone can defeat Malthius and lay to rest the souls of the suffering children.
It's okay, Simone. You're safe now.
Don't touch me!
You're hurt. Let me help you.
I said don't fucking touch me! Everyone stay back!
What the hell happened to you guys?
The children. My God. So much anger, so much hatred. They wanted us to suffer as much as they suffered.
It's like they were in my head, cutting from the inside.
I think Cole got the worst of it. You know she has problems. Fear of the dark, fear of being touched, fear of tight spaces.
Let me talk to her.
Don't touch me!
It's okay, Simone. Tell me about that number you like so much. The Golden Principle. Was that what you called it?
This isn't real! Nothing here is real!
How did that number go, Simone? You called it something. Phi?
Phi! Phi! The divine proportion!
Phi, right. How did that go?
1.6, 180,
Good. Now, let's lower the gun.
7498. 874.
Neat trick. What'd you do, reboot her?
Just one of the benefits of sharing a bunk with her. Now, if we could just work on the bedwetting.
Did you make contact with the Templars?
Oh yeah, we had a great meeting. They think Arnold Leach and his flying circus are the Holy Seraphim, and we're the bad guys.
I'm sorry I missed that.
We need to find the next breach and get the hell out of here.
The team reunites and we see a little bit there about Simone Cole's character. Remember, she doesn't have the same kind of supernatural powers the others have. She's basically a normal person, well, a really smart normal person, that is having to deal with reality-bending magic and technology. We never learn what trauma sparked all her phobias, but it's clear this place is affecting her more than the others. I don't believe this is said anywhere in the campaign, but through her bio we also learn that she's autistic. Here we can now use her Firestorm ability. While it's active, the entire squad's ammo now does additional fire damage. This is very useful against some enemies, like the Child Templars. Both this ability and her temporal loop can be used for only a set amount of time until Cole breaks with reality, which will put both of these abilities on cooldown. It only takes a short while before the team enters a chapel where Malthius resides.
Have you come to confess your sins, my children?
We were just leaving.
How dare you defile this holy place and make demands, heretic! You reek of sin! Kneel before me and be cleansed!
What's he saying?
Same shit they told me when I was expelled from Catholic school, and I'm gonna give him the same answer.
Looks like the kids want a piece of Malthius as much as we do.
Can you blame him?
This fight is more of a puzzle than anything. For the most part, Malthius has a shield that makes him completely invulnerable. The children will attack him but not do any damage, with the odd one or two breaking off to attack us. Eventually, Malthius will charge up an attack with an enormous radius that will down any character it hits. This attack will also break his shield, however, so our goal here is to bait this attack, run away or find cover, and hit him while he's down. This is easier said than done, however, because our teammates don't know that. Or at least, sometimes they don't know that. Sometimes one or more of our squad members will see that Malthius is charging his attack and book it to the other end of the room. Most of the time, they'll just stand there and get killed. The only cover we have is an altar at the beginning of the room, so it's best to just sit there, hit him, and then heal your teammates that were too stupid to get out of the way. We do this about 3 times until Malthius is defeated.
I loved you all! You are my children!
Now that is karma.
I think that's our cue to leave.